YouTube, it's me, Jen, your Pudgy Picker.
And Kim.
And we are here for another podcast, Two Sisters,
One Booth.
And this is podcast number 44.
44.
So today, we're talking about...
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing of importance. Thanks for stopping by. See you later.
We could just sit and talk like we did for the last 2 hours. They would probably enjoy that.
I don't know. I think we'd bore them to tears.
So, you know, we have had podcasts before about making the most of your space, you know, not diving in the first month that you're somewhere and going out and buying all this expensive pieces of display to display your items that you're selling. Ooh, excuse me. Also, just, you know, you have to find that right combination of display items, and it took us a while.
Oh, just, what, 8 or 10 years is all, that's all.
I mean, I think... I don't know, we were always kind of tweaking with our space because we're such cheapskates that we had in mind what we wanted, but we couldn't, like, match what was in our mind with the price tag on a lot of items. Yeah. So you'd say, wow, that would be perfect, but they want $200 or whatever. So that, you know, if money is unlimited... and that's the way you choose to set up your space.
Well, and if I know someone like that, I want to know somebody like that. 'Cause,
you want them to adopt you.
That's true.
So, in that respect, you know, I can honestly say, and Kim and I have talked about this a lot, that as far as everything we've done up till now, I am most satisfied with how our booth is set up, display piece-wise, than I've ever been in the 10 or more years we've been doing this.
Yep.
So, that being said, if you are in a position or you've been doing this for a while and you have pretty much all your display pieces set up where you're like, you know what, this is kind of what I'm going to use for quite a while, or, you know, I don't see me changing anything, you know, large display piece wise, where can I carve out more money? Money.
It's all about the money.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
That's, fortunately or unfortunately, you know, you get to a certain point where you have a certain amount of space. We have a 10 by 10 booth. We have it pretty much set up the way we want it.
Yeah.
We do move and tweak things around regularly. We have a display piece in the front that we're constantly changing to drum up more interest and have people look at it and say, oh, wow, that's different. Let's step into the booth.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we're not going to be doing any major changes in our booth for quite a while, for the foreseeable future, there are still ways that we can get more bang for our buck with the space that we have. And okay, I'm going to throw a new term at you. You ready?
Ooh, listen carefully. Turn up the volume.
Everybody get your pen out, because I'm going to come up with this awesome term.
Okay.
You know, you've heard of food being calorie dense.
Yes.
And they know how bad that is.
Oh, but usually it's something really awesome.
So what we want to do now is have an area that is profit dense.
Ooh,
Isn't that fancy?
That's so deep.
Isn't that nice?
I need a ladder to climb out of that one.
I came up with that all by my lonesome.
Call Wikipedia. Got a new word for
you know, if you had, let's say you had a 1-foot square box, and you were walking around in your booth, and you could invisibly place this over different areas in your booth, you're going to have areas where you're going to put that square box down, and it's only going to be maybe $10 worth of what you're selling in that space. And there's other areas where you can set it down, and it might be maybe $50 or, you know, $25. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to have an area, a smaller area, that has a lot more items and maybe more quantity than having one big $50 item.
Though I do love those $50 items.
Oh yeah, we're not going to pass those up.
Nope.
But there's a few areas in our booth that we are doing now that are more profit dense, And another idea that I'm going to be implementing in the next couple weeks that is also going to help in that area. Now, the spaces that we have that are profit dense now is we have a jewelry spinner.
Yep.
And that thing is probably 20 inches by 20 inches. It's got a little bit wider once you're turning it because it's a square shape. And that is full of, literally full of earrings that are $3.99 each. Now, $3.99, that's peanuts. But when you have a huge mound of peanuts...
Yep.
That's a lot of peanuts.
It's got a lot of nutty squirrels in there.
So then that area, with the amount of earrings that we have, that area, that space is like probably $350 worth of earrings in that one condensed space. So individually, it's not a hard hitter. In that small amount of space, having a huge amount of the same thing, that is profit dense.
Yes.
So, another area that we're doing, and we're going to even make that better, is our soap display. And it is essentially a box that had a door on it, and it has 10 spaces, and that is each one is filled with soap. And I have probably 7 or 8 bars in each little cubby, maybe 7. And each of those bars are $5. Now, this box is maybe 1.5 feet tall.
Yeah,
2 feet tall.
Yep,
maybe, you know.
She's holding her hands up like you can see her at this moment.
Yeah, can you see where I have?
Yeah, see?
And it really does not take up that much space. But it is profit dense, because if you picked up that item and you said there's 10 cubbies and there's, let's say there's 5 bars of soap in each one, and each bar is $5, that's several $100s worth of product. Individually, 1 bar of soap, no big deal, drop in the bucket. But all of that together is literally a couple $100s in a small amount of space.
Yep.
And another idea that we've been discussing, and that I think we're going to go through with, is a lot of people want to have a lot of other jewelry. And instead of having hanging jewelry, or a lot of like hang tags and things get tangled and stuck together and fall on the floor, we are going to, and I have already purchased, small little Ziploc bags that are, I think, 2 inches by 3 inches, or 2.5 by 3. That's that basic size. No, I'm not going to become a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Although profit, never mind.
No.
But
we'll talk about dense.
Yeah, profit. That has certain legal ramifications that I'm not willing to chance.
No.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take these little bags, and I've already purchased, someone had a upholstery swatch, like you'd look if you go to a furniture store, and here's all the couches, here's all the designs for this and that. And they had it in another booth. I bought it for $2, and I'm cutting those into squares that will fit into the little Ziploc bags. Then I will be able to attach brooches, earrings, bracelets, a necklace, any of those to be put on this piece of upholstery, put it into the Ziploc, seal it, and put a price tag on that, and then put it into a container that is easily dug through.
Yep.
So I'm thinking maybe if you have like a letter tray, but a little bit deeper, about that size, and how many of those you'd be able to fit in there. And not a lot of people like to dig. And
I don't.
Yeah. And
not often.
It depends. If you can dig around in jewelry and it's in neat little containers, rather than you, like if you find, and it's just like this soup of metal and chain, like if you do go to a thrift store or something and you pick up one thing and there's like 50 things stuck to it, that's not the kind of digging I'm ever interested in doing.
No.
We have bought jewelry flats from the auction that are literally one thing stuck to everything else in the box. It was like you dumped 5 jewelry boxes and then you stirred it with your hands. And literally, to get things apart, you need to sacrifice the cheapest chain and cut it to undo it. Otherwise, you'll be in a padded room somewhere or it would take you 50 years to get it all untangled. So to have something where everything is individually bagged and not tangled up, but you can dig, you can satisfy the customers who like to dig a little, but it's going to be contained in each little bag. I think that's going to be a profit-dense
I'm trying
situation.
to remember, there was somebody talking about it or something. It's been a while, where they said they had a big, I know who it was now, the manager there, and they sell jewelry at big open air places and stuff. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
And she said they have these ladies who come to them and purposely just to dig through buckets of jewelry. And she said they'll sometimes even bring their own little stool, and they will sit there, and they will sit there for an hour or two and
they
dig
probably
through.
love it.
Yes, some people that's their satisfaction of digging through and finding what they consider a gem to them. So
that's part of that's part of the experience of shopping at a place like ours. Is there some people who just want to look and lean and look, and they take a step in and look.
That's me.
They don't want to dig. I don't even want to touch anything to see what the price is. I want to just eyeball it.
Yep.
And that, you talking about not wanting to dig, I understand that, because a lot of times I'm not in the mood to dig. And if I'm at a garage sale and there's a box full of crap and it's under and I'm having to bend over and all that, and it's 90 degrees and I have sweat dripping off my nose, I'm not interested in digging.
Nope.
Just not into it.
Nope.
But if we could make it a way that it would be easy to look through, and then you could package and price that stuff at home, literally come in with a bag, dump it in there. You could literally have hundreds of dollars worth of cheap jewelry.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is, again, you have one item that's $3, $4, $6, $8, but in a big, pile, that's a lot of money in one little spot. And I think that's, I've often toyed with the idea of selling more than just earrings in our space, but I've thought, that's just going to take up so much room, and it's just going to be, you have to pick a wall and have a pegboard and all this stuff hanging, and it's tangled, and that's, I think, what's really put me off up until now, because at auctions and at the thrift store, I can get a jewelry jar. I can spend $7 to $10 on stuff that I could package that way. That's a good sit in front of the TV and work on it kind of thing. And have that stuff go up there, put it in a bin, and have people just dig to their heart's content.
Yeah.
So that is something we are going to be implementing. In fact, I'm going to be doing a video on that and show, what I have and my idea, and here's how I'm cutting it. I have pinking shears, where it cuts a little zigzag so the fabric doesn't ravel, and, to go ahead and show how you pin that on, and then you go ahead and slap that price on. I still need to, I guess we need to decide exactly where we're going to put that, because where we have jewelry now, that was something I was going to say. There was one other vendor in our mall that was selling soap. They were selling the glycerin type soap, where it was more, you could see through it.
Yeah.
So it was totally different than what I was selling. So I didn't feel like I was competing directly with him. He had it looked like almost like a column of wood.
Yeah, like a pedestal, wooden pedestal.
And on top is this spinning rack, and I was always just so jealous of it. And it never looked, in the last couple months, like he was restocking that.
Yeah.
And I kind of wondered, and I thought, well, it's not his way. It doesn't take up a lot of room. He has like a double space. So that's probably the last thing on his mind. When I was working at the store last week, I was walking through the furniture area, and what do you think I saw?
Tell me, I'm dying to know.
I saw the stand with the spinner on top, and I was like, and I thought, I don't even want to look at the price. It's funny, because this vendor, I was working, and he was there that day until like 2 hours before the store closed. He had to leave. And of course I saw it afterwards, so I had to call him. I'm like, I know I looked at you all day, but He had $65 on it. And I was like, oh,
ouch.
That kind of hurts.
Ouch.
Now, the neat thing about this is these were 2 pieces of furniture, essentially, that he put together. So with like 3 screws, I could take that off and have that spinner separate of that stand. So that's, I think, what we're going to do. But he had 65 on it, so I called him and I said, I know you were here all day, but I just noticed your soap spinner you had in the back. And he goes, yeah, you know, I sold soap off and on, and I got tired of dealing with it, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to get out of the business. I'm not going to worry about it. So I said, well, you know, I am selling soap in my space. And he goes, I think I knew that. And then I explained, you know, I never tried to be in competition with you. I bought something totally different than what you carried. He goes, whatever, it doesn't matter. And now I'm not doing it anymore. I said, so this stand would be for my own personal use in the booth. So when you're dealing with another vendor, I wanted to be totally honest and not, you know, him think I'm going to buy it from $50, or I could talk him down and then I could resell it for higher. Yeah, it had nothing to do with that. I told him, I said, this is for our own personal use in our space. And he said, I'll do 50. And even though that was still a little, it's still a little high, I am never going to come across this type of item
If
again.
you were to go and buy that directly from a manufacturer, that would have cost you way more than that.
Yeah, the good thing about this one is the way it's set up is there's the 4 sides that have 5 spaces each. So essentially I can fit 20 different types of soap on there.
Yeah.
And right now I have 10 in the little, you know, in the little cubbies, and then I have 1 on top. So I'm selling 11. So I can almost double what I'm offering now, and it's going to be in a small space. Mm-hmm. Again, it's that profit dense space that for 29 inches tall and maybe 16 inches wide on either side, that's going to hold literally probably $400 worth of soap. So, yeah, so it was definitely worth it. And that's a business expense of buying that stand.
Tax write-off.
Yeah, and I could even, take the bottom part of that, and I could even, sell that part of it to recoup some of the money.
Yeah.
So that, the bottom has a little door on it. So, I mean, you could even, store stuff in there. But again, if you go back into our archives of our podcast, we talked about dead space and a waste of space. That area would not serve any purpose for reselling. Mm-mm. I mean, if you wanted to, put a lock on it and maybe, put some price tags in there, but even that I wouldn't trust.
No.
But it's one of those that would be totally a space that would not serve any purpose.
Nope, taking up space that you could be putting stuff there to make money on.
Yeah, so totally not interested in that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take it off the stand. We're going to put it in the middle of the booth. Once we do all these changes here, we'll show you because, we like to show you the evolution of our space. Mm-hmm. But, think of ways in your space. What can you do to make an area in your booth more profit dense? What can you do? Can you offer, smaller priced items in a certain area? I know there's always the debate of it, is it worth selling items that are only a few dollars? And I can honestly say we sell a ton of smalls, and we like to think that our booth can service anyone's budget, that a kid can come in and spend a couple bucks to buy a gift for their parent, and somebody can come in and buy a really nice item for much more.
Yep.
But I would say the majority of our items are lower price items.
That's true.
So it's so much easier for someone to say, oh, that's only $3.99 or that's only $5. So they're able to make that decision rather than this huge piece of furniture. It's $100. I don't have $100. Do I really need that? No, pass on. Don't bother getting it. So I think it's a lot easier for people to talk themselves into a $5 bar of handmade soap that's going to make them happy, and I'm buying something for me and I'm not spending $1 million. So, how do we use those type of items and just have a lot of them? The quantity and quality, having a lot of an item to make it, even though it's a smaller amount, to be worth your while. So that's, you know, we want you to look in your booth and think of that invisible 1 foot cube. Think about where you're putting that. How much is showing up inside that box? How much is just, you know, a lot of money in one little space? And how can you change that? So I guess that's the point we wanted to get across. So do you have anything else to add?
Oh, I was kind of the silent one. You handled this all so well.
Oh, I was so excited to talk about it.
And your new word and all.
I know.
Oh, jeez.
I should patent it or something.
Yeah, hurry up before you publish this, because once it's out there,
yeah,
I can tell you how many I've missed out on. Not words, but things. Every time I think of it, it turns up on a commercial a month later.
You're like, darn, I thought of that.
I know. It's like, really? I thought of that.
Yeah, you know, it's just to come up with a term that really describes what the point we're trying to get across. And I just think that's a perfect term for that, because people are like, you know, I don't want to commit to a bigger booth. You know, there's been several vendors like, you should get a bigger space. We're like, no.
Oh, no.
And with us selling also on eBay and me having a store on eBay, I mean, that's a lot of work too. And I don't know if I'll ever want a space bigger than a full space. I mean, if I didn't do eBay, then maybe it would be a consideration. But that being said, we know our space isn't going to get any bigger. There's nothing that we can buy display-wise that's going to hold any more in a you know, eye-pleasing way than we have now.
Yeah.
So now what do we do to make more money, to bring in more things without it looking like a storage unit barfed?
Yeah.
You know? So we want to have more items in there, but it not to be so packed that anybody's afraid of stepping in, and if they sneeze, they're going to blow out a wall.
Yes.
You know, or you bend over, or you knock something over, and it's a domino effect, and everything starts falling off the walls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, there's certain booths we don't go into because we're not petite little wallflowers, and we have purses that aren't very small either.
Yeah.
And I know when I start to turn and I hear something jiggle, I stop and go, oh, I hope I didn't almost knock something over.
And when I'm in the store and you hear something take a crash, you can pretty much tell by the area it's coming from which one it is. Because there's a couple places like that.
Yes. And it's funny because one particular vendor we're thinking about, every time she's in her booth, she breaks about $30 worth.
Yes, at least every time.
You hear a crash, and they're like, "Oh, it's so and so," and everybody goes, "Oh."
And she comes around the corner with the garbage can or a handful of something.
She's like, "Well, I broke something else."
Yeah,
she is funny though. She's
entertaining.
She's funny. Yes, she's our special little person. You know, you got over 100 vendors. You got all these personalities,
yes.
And, you know, she's endearing enough, even though she drives you crazy sometimes. But I'm sure like people feel that way about us,
what?
too.
No, not you, who doesn't talk a lot and have funny hair.
Okay, it's you. So, yeah. So, you know, we want you, in the next couple weeks, think about it. Look in your booth. Have that imaginary box. Kind of look around and think, where could I, you know, have more? How could I make more use of this space? Because that's what it's about, you know. I mean, sometimes we have some display area things that are pretty tall, and we're like, well, where are we going to put this? We could put it up there, but nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to be able to look at it. So, you know, you just got to make the most of what you have.
Yep.
So we hope that you enjoyed our podcast this week. Please give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. We want to also remind you, we mentioned this last week, that we only have a handful of episodes yet.
Aww.
I know. And we're going to be closing the series, but we are going to do a once-a-month series. We have not yet come up with a name, and it is going to be Kim and I both in front of the camera. We'll have full episodes, hopefully like an hour long each month. You'll get to go on our crazy journey.
Yippee!
We'll get to show you some stuff and show you things that make us happy in the career, and some things that drive us nuts. Maybe
Yep.
we'll have a couple of rants.
Oh, no, not a rant.
Oh, a rant.
Oh, no.
Rants are good for ratings. Rant and raving, there's a
Rant and
reason they
raving.
sound alike. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to have more of an opportunity to just show you visually some things that just wasn't compatible with
Yeah.
this podcast.
And we don't want to
format.
hear any complaints about it because, you know what they say, you got to watch what you ask for. You guys asked to pull back the curtain, and now you may have to put
Now you
blinders
can't
on.
close your eyes. You have to look. Look at it.
Look.
So, yeah. So, if you have any questions, we are going to squeeze in a Q&A before we are all done. So, if you have any questions, now is the time to answer them. So, you can follow me on Twitter and also Instagram under The Pudgy Picker. And we will see you next week, or you will hear us next week. And that's it. That's all.
Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye.